Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I wasn't able to do my technical check, so let me know if those of you listening don't have good audio. But I'm actually on here by myself today. Usually there are a couple people from the team, but I'm here to answer your questions and talk about a couple of the most important things that we've been seeing as far as questions in the Facebook group this week and just questions from clients and what we're hearing out in the community right now. So let's start off talking about some good news, which everyone's closely watching all of the different embassies and different ones are sort of starting to open up, and we're starting to see more and more cases go through, post coronavirus cases where people are getting their interviews, getting their visas coming through. So that's really great news. A lot of people have been asking us a lot about Schengen area countries, and if, there's always been that ongoing question about, some of the embassies, people are still getting notices allegedly that say that they're not processing K1s, but we've actually found that some of them now are, specifically France. So that's really exciting to actually see some of those cases start to move. And typically in a bureaucracy situation like we're in with immigration, unfortunately, we sometimes see where some of the embassies are sort of, they kind of look at each other and copy each other. So I think it's a really good sign that some of them are starting to follow through with that. So we'll keep you posted, and we'd love to hear back from those of you who are getting interviews now and starting to see some signs of life there, which is great. So that was my first update. And then I want to talk to just about, there have been a lot of discussions about how to prove your relationship with immigration. That's an ongoing discussion for anybody who is in this process, and especially if you're at the beginning part of a petition. And so there's been some back and forth, and I wanted to just go over that because I think that for all of our new members, we've had a lot of new people join. That's usually a question people have right at the very beginning is, how do I prove my relationship? And the thing is, it doesn't end there, because once you get your green card, you actually are still going to have to, at 2 future phases, through removal of conditions. And again, if you're going to file naturalization after just 3 years, you have to prove your relationship again each time. So, you might as well get used to saving your relationship evidence. So there are a few main categories of relationship evidence that we start out with traditionally, but it's important to understand that we're not limited to that. So there are a lot of different ways we can prove a relationship, and we like to make a really customized argument for each individual couple. But some of the things that we initially ask for, just to see if a couple has, kind of start with the traditional stuff, would include things like proof that you've joined your finances together if you're married. And some of this won't apply to you if you're engaged. Maybe you haven't joined your finances together and you'd rely more on other categories. But proof that you've joined your finances together is things like sharing joint expenses or having certain types of accounts together, having both of your names on bills, things like that. Can all be really good examples of financial, joint activity. People sometimes have, if you have some kind of insurance policy, life insurance or health insurance or dental insurance or homeowners insurance or any type of insurance policy that you have together, or that one is the beneficiary, say you have a life insurance policy and you put your spouse as the person who would get the money if you were to pass away, then those are all good types of evidence to show that your financial lives are joined together. So that's a major one. Then they also want to see that you're living together, if you're living together. And again, this only applies to couples who are living together. You don't want to have evidence that is, fraudulent or trying to show something that's not true. But if you're living together, you want proof of that. So that starts from the very beginning with, being on the same lease together, or having a mortgage together, or somehow showing, sometimes you might have moved in, maybe one person owned a home and the other person moved in, so they're not on the mortgage or on the deed or anything like that. But you can show that you're both getting important mail to the same address, or paying bills at that address, or, things like that can still prove that you live together. And then we want to also make sure that we're always proving, sort of from a social aspect, proving that you have a public relationship. So that can be everything from social media to affidavits from family and friends who who spent time with you together as a couple. Just any proof that you're out and about in a public relationship can be really helpful evidence as well. And then, of course, if you have kids together, that's great evidence. If you are, for a lot of our couples who are engaged and or not living in the same country currently, if they're doing a spouse visa, proof that you travel back and forth to see each other or that you're in constant communication can be super helpful because, that would be a typical pattern that, we would see if someone were in a relationship and they couldn't be together. You would want to see really a paper trail of that communication happening. And so one of the kind of common myths that we hear, and I think some people had thrown this out in the Facebook group, and I thought it was a great idea for something to talk about this week, was just that sometimes people will say, well, if you don't know how much stuff to submit, just submit more than you think you need. Just a ton of stuff, just, throw kitchen sink, everything you possibly have at them. And we actually don't recommend that, even though I can understand, sense the frustration behind that sentiment, because it feels like they just keep asking for stuff. And sometimes you get a request for evidence and it's just like, oh my gosh, just give them everything. But the thing is, you have to be really careful about what you're submitting, because some of the things could include information that kind of makes the government confused or suspicious. So we always want to go through carefully any sorts of, if you're sending text messages or social media, sometimes you can actually be giving them information that can be harmful to your case or confusing, or that they might take the wrong way, even though you didn't do anything wrong. It's getting that third party perspective on whether this is good evidence about your relationship or not can be super, super helpful. And so the government actually also considers it sometimes suspicious if you have too much evidence. Ironically, there's something called an over-submission where, there's what's called an under-submission, which is like, okay, you have like, few crappy kinds of evidence and it's just not that convincing that you have a relationship. Obviously, that's suspicious. But sometimes you can actually have an over-submission where you're submitting so many things that it almost looks like, what are you trying to prove here? What are you trying to hide? Why does this feel like this carefully concocted, you're just too defensive, and so the government actually has documents showing that they also consider that suspicious. So it's really about finding that happy medium, not to freak everyone out, but it's about a happy medium. So I just always want to throw that out there, that more is not always better. Sometimes it just gets you more problems. You want a well-rounded view of your relationship on paper, and there's kind of a sweet spot for reaching that point. And I wanted to mention that we do actually have on our homepage of our website, immigrationforcouples.com, we do actually have a sign up for a more extensive little mini course on this, where we have a video talking through it, and we have also a download PDF that has a list of even much more specific ideas and much more of the law behind proving a relationship and exactly, kind of the legal standards behind that. So if you're interested in that topic specifically, go ahead and check it out, and you can download that for free. And so that will get you a lot more information. But I wanted to see if we had any comments today or anybody wanting to ask any questions about anything. Let me see, I'm doing this on my phone today, so it's a little bit harder to see. I don't see any questions popping up, and I'm not sure if I'm just looking in the wrong place, but I think I would typically see them pop up here. It might just not work on my phone. So if you have, I see there are a lot of people on here. So if you have any questions, just general questions, be sure to pop them in there. If you have personal questions, of course, you can always sign up for one of our consultations, and we're happy to give you an individual assessment. What I'm going to do is, I'm not sure about the comments if I just can't see them on my phone. So if people are commenting and I get off and I see that, I'll reply in writing. I always, it seems like the tech on this changes every single week. We're getting a hang on it, but it's wonderful to see you all at lunchtime today, and we'll see you next week. Please continue to participate and just tell us what you want to hear about every week as we do these chats. So have a nice day. Bye.